Hello, it's Ben again. This is the second tutorial, the soda can modeling tutorial. This is where we will model the soda can using NURBS and Polygons. Two different techniques. This is NURBS surfaces. So, remember what we need to do first is set up a project, and I told you guys we would do that here, and we need to, because we have texture or reference images we need to put in the source images folder. So let's go up to File, Project window. So new, let's type in soda can tutorial, and I'll leave this path here. I like all these names, I'm okay with this, and I'll click accept. Now, I brought this up in the Windows viewer. We want to put our references images and our source images. I have them right here. You will find them in a zipped file, or not zipped, I'm not sure yet, but I will include the textures with the project, and it will have these names. Okay, so this is in my source images in my project folder that I made. Hopefully you know where that is and you can navigate there. So yeah, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and close that. So let's go ahead and we need to set up our first reference image. So let's go into our front view and go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. This is how we're going to bring in pictures. And what Maya does is when you say I want to reference an image or something, a texture or anything, it's going to bring up your source images because that's where it knows you're going to put them. Because I told you to, right? Okay, we need to pick the Pepsi can. Because we're in our front view, and this is going to be our front view of the can, so let's click open. That looks good. We'll put in the second reference image for the tab a little bit later. Let's go ahead and select this and come into the attribute editor and click looking through camera. Let me show you what that changes. If I come out at here, this is going to be here, and this is kind of annoying. What some people will do is they'll grab it and they'll push it back so it's out of the way, but it's still there. We don't need that. We can click looking through camera, and in that case you will only see it when looking through the front camera, because this image is directly linked to this orthographical view. What's really annoying is as I start to draw, we're going to do the body of this thing with a curve and then lay that around, which would be a NURB surface. What's really annoying is as you're editing this line, it's going to show the line as white, and that's going to cause problems because we can't really see with all this white here. What we can come in here and do is play with this alpha gain. Now let's go and just put that at something like 0.3 around there. I mean, we can still see the can, obviously. Something else I want you to notice is like this is not an orthographical picture. This is not a drawing. This might be a render, but this is not orthographical. If it was, it would come straight. It wouldn't have this perspective on it. The top has it too, and we're going to have to account for that, and it's not hard to account for that. As long as you follow along, you'll see how I do that. Because I mean, technically, if you realistically come down right here, this is the edge of the can, and from here it will go straight to the center, and you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's come up here to create, and I'm going to use an EP curve. Some people like the control vertex here, but EP for me, I mean, I've always got a better result with it. I'm sure the CV has its places and times, same as the EP. I'm going to start right here. I know it looks like it does this weird little thing, but I don't know what that is, and I don't believe it exists because it's not over here. So let's just start, I guess about right here. And we're just going to follow this path. Try to keep your lines evenly spaced out. And I know this is one straight line, but you need to do this. We can straighten these out later. If you don't keep them far enough or close enough, you'll get issues. You don't want them real close, that'll give you shading issues. Just a good moderate distance all the way down and around. You know, you want to control Z sometimes, or Z in Maya. I love that. You know, get the shape a little bit better. Let's come in here, really nail this curve. Let's put it, I guess, about right here. Let's go ahead and draw this straight over. Now, in a can, the bottom comes up under like this. So we're going to go ahead and account for that, and we'll do that later, but go ahead and put in a couple extra instead of just one straight line. You'll see why we did that later. Now this one you want real close to the edge, but we can fine tune that later. So this is looking pretty good. We're going to model the top with polygons, so don't worry about the top right now. Okay, so that's looking good. So what we can go ahead and do is hit enter, and that will finish our curve. It's like, oh no, where are all my points? It's okay, don't worry, I'm here. Just right click, control vertex. Now you see, now we have points. So as you can see, this isn't straight. It's not perfect, and you're going to notice that later, and we don't want to notice that later. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my scale tool, which we learned about earlier, and I'm just going to pull this in. You see what's happening? If you don't, I can pull it in the opposite direction and show you it's scaling. It's pushing them out. This will pull them in to a perfectly straight line. And if you look down here, these numbers down here, well, as I pull it, look down there, you see that? You want that to be a 0. You want to pull that as close as you can to 0. 0.010 is darned close enough. Then we can go ahead and kind of push this over a little bit, it looks like, just to be stupid. Okay, now we've already got kind of a problem down here. You see this, how this is warping out? That's not what a can does. So we can just go and grab these and kind of pull them in. We want a straight line, regardless if it perfectly follows the reference. This all looks pretty good. I could probably mess with this a little bit. There's a lot of tweaking and modeling, and you kind of get used to that. I've got too many points here, and this is going to give me some shading issues, so let's go ahead and kind of try to, okay, I see what's happening here. Let's pull this one out. Okay, we got some jumbled curves. So now we need to straighten out this flat bottom part. So let's grab all this, scale, remember, pull straight down until it's perfectly flat. 0.002, that's really close, which is great. Now let's come in here and go ahead and pull this real close to the axis, because this is where you're going to be lathing around, and if you're not close, you're going to have a teeny little hole there. So you don't want it to go over. That'll give you definite shading problems. So that's close enough. No one's going to look at the bottom of your can, so who cares? Let's right click object mode. Let's get out of here and look at this curve. This is a good looking curve. We have a great start to this can. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come over here to surfaces. Curves work in conjunction with surfaces really well. So I know this revolve button will work because the default settings are set to the y-axis, which means it will loft this curve around like this, around this axis. But if I click it once, it'll go ahead and run those default settings, but I'm going to double click. When you double click any of these, you're going to get an options box. Now this options box, see, it's on the Y, we're on the object, so that's all good. The angle sweep, you want that to be 360, you want it to go all the way around. Segments, we're going to change that in a second. That's a parametric quality that we can continue to change with the revolve node. Curve range complete, and we want the output geometry as NURBS, not polygons. We're going to convert the NURBS to polygons later for ease of use, but right now we don't want polygons because once it's polygons, it's flat and we can't edit any of the parametric qualities. So we're going to keep it NURBS right now. Click apply. There we go, we've got it. This is looking good. So let's go ahead and hit 5 on our keyboard for shaded view. That is looking good. This is looking great. This is where you want to be. No, we don't. Now, if you have any banding issues, like a band that's running around anywhere, this dark band, I've had that issue before, and it simply means that you have two control vertexes that are too close, and you will see those. So if you bring this up, and you're like, oh, I can't even see them because the can's in the way. Well, remember all the tricks I showed you in the first video? Just hit Control H. Now you're back to just working on your curve. You can really see, no, none of those are too close. And by too close, I'm not talking about this, but I'm talking like this too close. But I mean, maybe I can show you what this means. I'm going to hit Control Shift H to unhide. Okay, I'm going to pull this really close and we'll see what happens. Make a fool out of me, will you? That's okay. I mean, it happens, and it will happen, and you'll get some really strange issues. Control vertexes can be kind of weird. But what is cool about using a curve is that you still have the ability to, edit the model via the curve until the history's gone. But we don't want to do that, do we? Let's go back to object mode. Okay, so this is looking good. You can kind of see where your polys are going to be laid out. It's each of these, you can convert it in that sense to where each of these will be a poly. But if you take a look closely, you'll see that we have these hard edges. This weird kind of blocky shading. That's that 8 segments I told you about when we were revolving it that we could change later. See this blockiness on the edge? Like when you're far away, everything looks fine. When you come in close, you'll kind of notice that. Well, that's in your revolve node. So let's click your surface. This is your surface shape. Here's the revolve node directly connected. Okay, if you come down here, you're going to find sections. And as you dial that up and dial it down, look what happens. So let's put this at what was it? Say 36. It's a good number if I can get there. Now 36 is a good number for a lot of reasons. I mean, this is just a good example, but 36 is divisible by 2, which is what you want, so that your model is symmetrical. But also, 36 is divisible by 4. And that's going to split your model up perfectly. If you can see where these axes run into. This is all, looking really nice and symmetrical. So, just for the added delicacy of it, it's nice to just go ahead and have your geometry perfect. And now we don't have those blocky issues because there's enough resolution there for a good smooth mesh. And now our polys are much smaller, and these aren't actual polys. These are NURBS curves, but when we convert them to polys, you'll be able to select these faces. Right now you can't select these faces because it's NURBS, and NURBS has no components other than the hole and control vertices and so forth, which is totally different than polygons. Now let's go ahead and shape out the bottom of this can. So we need to grab the control vertices, and let's go ahead and grab this middle one, pull it up, about right there. Go ahead and grab the second one and pull that up. Just kind of do this, and you're going to kind of shape it out as you go. Oh my goodness. look what I've done. I've been pulling in the wrong direction. I was wondering what was going on. That's funny. Okay, let's go and Control Z that. Sorry about that. Thought something looked kind of weird. Alright, there we go. That looks better. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes, even to the best of us. Gotta watch out. So, this is looking pretty good. Let's go and flatten this out. Just make sure. Go to object mode. Let's go ahead and hide our curve because right now we're done with it. As long as this looks good, we're done with it. And that does look good. That looks fine. We now have the undercurve that we want. So that's all looking good, and that looks about where we want it. So we're not going to convert this to polys yet. We'll do that in either at the end of this video or the beginning of the UV tutorial. So let's go ahead and model the top, and we're going to do that with polygons. And polygons, you saw a little bit about polygons and the way they subdivide in the last tutorial. Now when I click, it's going to create it right in the center. And what's good is I revolved my curve right in the center. So I know this cylinder is right in the middle of this can. Let's go ahead and scale that down. Now remember the trick I showed you to only scale in two directions. Control and drag. The axis you don't want to be affected. Let's go ahead and do that. Pull that out. Let's go into our front view. Come up here and alright, let's get that good and even though it looks about right there. Now there's some perspective on this can, so don't try to match it up perfect, just try to get the shape. And I've looked at other pictures of cans, that's the only reason I know how the top of this can is going to look. I advise you to get online and just look at 3D perspective pictures of cans, and that's always something good to do before you model anything. Let me make sure this is tall enough. It could be a little bit taller, I think. That looks good. Let's pull that back down. Okay, now, even if we were to smooth this now, that looks awful. There is no geometry, no holding geometry. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into here and look at this curvature. There's a slight curvature around this, and we're going to achieve that. And the way I'm going to do that is we're going to start using these edit mesh tools. This is to do everything with your components of your object, of your mesh. You know, your edges, your faces, extrusions, insert loops, merging vertices, sliding edges, everything, beveling, chamfering, all just using these individual components. Mesh is to affect your entire mesh, this entire cylinder. These things will affect, you know, things like filling a hole, reducing, you know, number of polygons, smoothing, combine two meshes so that the program reads them as one mesh, stuff like that, like mirroring your geometry, stuff like that. So in edit mesh, we'll come in here and we'll choose the insert edge loop tool. Now I'm going to go over here to my tool settings, and likenesses, you don't have these tool settings right here. You don't have them anywhere at all, actually, do you? I'm psychic, and that's the only reason I know that. If you do have them, I'm an idiot. So what you can do about that is come up here to Window, Settings and Preferences, Tool Settings. You're going to click that, and you're going to get this pop-up. And you don't want this just out and about. So let's go ahead and drag this over here, over the channel box, and it's going to embed itself right there with the channel box and attribute editor. If you don't have the attribute editor, hit Control A, and it'll pop that up. Control A will access your attribute editor. So yeah, you always want your tool settings, channel box, and attribute editor over here. It's really helpful. So now the tool settings are affecting the tool I currently have active, which, if you remember, I clicked the insert edge loop tool. So that's what this little triangle is. It's reminding me I don't have my main arrow selected. So I don't just try to select it and I'm like, oh, what just happened? Okay. Now you have relative distance from edge, and what that's going to do is like, oh my gosh, having a zoom in problem again. Okay, this is just going to allow you to put these wherever you want, add an edge wherever you want. You need to control Z twice, or just Z twice, undo twice if you add an edge loop. If I hit Z once, you'll see it has this ring selected. It's still, this ring is still cut. So you need to hit Z again. See, there we go. So Z, Z. If you don't, you're going to have all kinds of problems later on with your geometry because it's leaving those cuts in the edges just without, then you've got ingons and all kinds of problems. So let's go ahead and, well, I don't want to add them this way. So that's just that way you can do equal distance from edge. But what we're going to use is multiple edge loops. This will, and if you have this equal multiplier and it's going to evenly space them out, it doesn't matter where I drag, they will be evenly spaced out. And Maya by default will select these new cuts you made. So let's go ahead and just hit R, switch to our scale tool, and let's just kind of barely pull these out. Just kind of bow that out just a little bit. That's looking good. Go ahead and switch back to object mode and smooth that. That looks awful. So let's not look at that yet. Usually don't want to look at your smooth mode too early. You'll just be disheartened. Oh, something we don't need the bottom of this. Something that we realize in Maya is or 3D in general, you don't need to show what you don't need, but you do need to anticipate what will be shown. So yeah, right here I don't show the bottom of the can, but maybe in an animation the top of the can pops off. Even then you wouldn't want to see the bottom just because of this one specific scenario, but you need to anticipate those sorts of things. The modeler is the base ground for everything, so you really don't want to mess up the rigger and then pass on those problems to the animator. But I know for a fact that we can go ahead and, because we're rendering a still, I can go ahead and delete these polys. They're only going to get in the way. So let's hit O. And what this will do is hold down O and then click. And then go up to poly, brush, select faces. If that doesn't say select faces, just come over here to selection and go to select faces. What this does is it opens your poly brush, and I remember I showed you a little bit of that in the first tutorial. So you want to hold B and scale this up. And we can go around. This is going to be painting in the center of the poly. So if I paint here, I'm not going to get anything. If I paint out here, I'm not going to get anything. I need to paint through the center of the poly. Every poly has a center. Okay, now this doesn't select through the object, so that's our only selection. It looks like we're fine, so we can hit delete. Now we don't have the bottom, and it's going to smooth better. It's already looking better. So let's switch back to our selection tool. Select edges. Let's go ahead and scale this in a little bit and pull it down. Yeah, it's looking nice. Let's grab this whole thing and kind of just scale it inwards to where we just kind of make that edge meet with the can. And now what we're going to want to do is unsmooth. Of course, we don't want to work in smooth mode all the time. If you do all your modeling in smooth mode, which I did when I first started doing 3D, it just causes problems. You'll be in smooth mode and you'll grab a vertex and you'll move it out. You're like, yeah, that looks good. That looks about how I want it. And then you'll unsmooth and then, oh my gosh, that looks awful. What happened? And you'll get all sorts of problems. So let's be wary of that. Now I'm gonna extrude these inwards. So well, that's another reason I wanted to delete those polys, so I don't accidentally select the bottom polys when I'm selecting the top polys. So now we want to go ahead and select these, and we're going to extrude them inwards. Now if you smooth, you'll go ahead and see we're smoothing from here all the way to the center, which is why we're getting this weird shape. And cylinders smooth weird anyway, so we need a ring right here that it can collide with to hold this edge. See, it's going past there, it's going all the way out here, and that's ugly. We don't want that. So what we can do is grab these, and then we're gonna go up to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and you can mess with this stuff if you want. I usually don't. Oh, that looks good. That's about where we want it actually, so that's fine. But what you can also do, other than offsetting it, put that back at 0, is you can, right after you click, let me just get out of here and show you. You can go to Edit Mesh, and once you click Extrude, it's been extruded. There is another face on top of that face, so we can just go and hit R, cancel out that tool, and scale those new faces inwards, and you'll see what I mean. See? Create a new face on top of those faces, so scale that in, about right there. And then let's hit G. And G is going to repeat the last command. As long as the last command I did was extrude, which I hope it was, it's going to repeat the last command. Okay, good. It did. So this is your little widget, your extruding widget. It's got some good functionalities, direction, scale, built in. I prefer to still use the basic tools. I always switch back to my basic tools. There's no real need for this other than it's putting it at the center, which is really helpful. Like I said, I'm modeling this from my knowledge of looking at cans online. Otherwise, I would really have no idea what I was doing here. Let's extrude that again. Make a little valley. And let's extrude that again. You can see my workflow will start to speed up as I get better with these key commands and such. Let's just barely scale that in. This is already looking good. Now when I smooth this, it's going to look ugly because we don't have holding edges. It's very soft and doughy, and that'll happen initially. That's why you don't want to look at it right away. So let's access our Insert Edge Loop tool. I have mine mapped to Alt-C. It's a Modo thing, and I started with Modo, which was a 3D modeling application. It's stuck. I love that key command, so I put it in my so I'll let you know when I switch to it. I'm not just going to do it, but let's make sure we turn this back to relative distance from edge before we just slap them on here. So let's go ahead and start adding some geometry, tighten up these edges. Okay, now see here, this is a problem. This is a common problem. You're like, oh, well, this isn't giving me a loop, and that's simply because Maya does not read this as a loop because these are triangles. Triangles are not okay, technically. You can reduce a model to having at least one triangle, maybe under the armpit or something. You don't want to see a triangle because it will give you messy shading, or when you smooth, which you can already see here, and which you could probably see better earlier. Yeah, you can't really see it here, but it was given, there's a weird shading thing with it. Because of my extra geometry, it's shading a little bit better. So what you can do about that, if you need to loop up here, just like I did earlier, you can just go to your faces, select them. Oh, and this is cool. If I need to get back to poly extrude, just hold down space, which is your hotbox, which I totally forgot to use, and I told you I was going to remember to use it, and I forgot, so I'm sorry. Remember about this, because I'm an idiot. Come over here to recent commands, poly extrude. You can do all these recent commands. It's wonderful. You'll get very fast with these, and then we'll go and just scale this inwards, and see now we have that edge loop there. And we probably don't want it that hard. Better pull it back a little bit more. Let's go ahead and smooth that, see how that looks. That looks really good. One thing I noticed is this top edge of the can is probably a little too thick. And also this can might be a little too high, the inside of the can, so we can fix all that. So let's go ahead and start making some real quick adjustments. Now if I have this selection, I can come up here to select grow selection region, and this is going to grow outwards. See, it added that. And if I did it again, it would grow out there. But we don't want that right now. I'm just going to pull this down. Okay, then we need to make this smaller. So what we can do to do that is go ahead and just double click this edge and it'll select all the way around. And we'll go, oh, and we'll grab this one too. Go ahead and hold shift and select that one as well. Just double click. Then we're gonna slowly scale that out. Make that top part not so harsh. Let's look at that now. Yeah, that looks a lot better. This is looking pretty good. Okay. Well, now we need a tab up here. And we're gonna model that with polygons. And I'm gonna take a really interesting route. Something that I didn't learn about for a long time, which was straight up point modeling essentially, but point poly modeling, like very basic, starting with one polygon. So I'm going to start by hiding this stuff. If you ever have hidden something a long time ago and you don't know, and Control-Shift-H isn't working because you opened up the scene again and you don't know how to get your items back, they're going to be dimmed here. So if you just select the two items that you know that you want back, you can click Show All. Oh, I'm sorry. Come up here to Display, and then click Show. You can click Show All or Show Selection. I'm gonna rehide this curve. Actually, I'm gonna rehide all of it. Now you know. Let's get out of here. Let's jump back into our 4 view. We're gonna put this reference image in the top view because the tab will be in the top view. So let's import an image. Let's go and bring in the can tab. Now, let's go ahead and just unhide that stuff real quick. If we model this tab at this size, you know, we're gonna have to scale it down, and we might as well nip it in the bud. Just go ahead and come into here and mess with the width of the image. I know I'm not changing the height, but it constrains proportions. Let's go ahead and turn on wireframe. That looks about right. That's about the right size, and we can always, you know, adjust that later. Just go ahead and get it kind of in the right area. Okay, let's go ahead and hide all this jazz again. Okay. So we're gonna come up here to mesh, and we are going to go to create polygon tool. Sorry about that, I couldn't find it. Let's see, I don't think this is gonna work. Yep, okay. This is another problem. See, I'm clicking. Let's click over here. You'll see I'm actually doing something, but it's actually underneath the image. We can hit it. Just hit Z. Get out of there. I don't know why I did that. There we go. Now, what's happening, and I figured this out earlier, was that I'm actually drawing underneath this image, and I don't know why. I think that's kind of dumb. So, I believe we can change this image center Y. There we go, to a negative number. So I'll go ahead and put that under, and now you'll see your grid, which means it's underneath. And what we also need to do is go ahead and we can make this a little bit opaque so we can see what we're doing. Okay, now let's try this again. Go up to our mesh, create polygon tool. Let's go ahead and click here and click here. Now we're just going to kind of follow this around, and then here. What we did was we created a polygon. Now if I hit enter, there's my polygon. Go ahead and hit 5 to shade, but I don't want to shade, so let's go and turn that off. We created our own polygon, and all this is a polygon. I mean, straight up, I cannot zoom in. A polygon. I mean, we're talking 4 sides, 1 plane, nothing. Now, we can grab this edge here. So let's go into edge mode. And now we're going to extrude the edge. And although it's a plane, it's still going to read it just like an extrude and just kind of pull it out. So I'm gonna hit my quick key for extrude. It's in edit mesh extrude. I'm going to hit Alt X, which is my extrude key. You're gonna have a little bit different widgets here, 2D widgets, and this is your rotate. So you can get, which is nice, definitely. This widget, kind of look at this angle. Try to match that angle with the rotation. You want your polys to flow. I'm going to go ahead and go back and fix this one. And with this kind of modeling, it really takes time, and if you want it to look really nice. It's a lot of point editing and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and extrude. I'm just going to keep doing this. Oh, and you'll see I'm only doing half of this. That's because I'm going to do all half and then just mirror it across because it's a perfectly symmetrical object and there's no reason to model them separately. And then try to make them even because it just won't work. They just won't be 100% even. So let's keep going. Kind of keep shaping this out, and you want it to flow. You don't want problems. You don't want problems later. You want, you don't want to keep them all going straight. You want this. You want to make sure you rotate it and all that. It's very important for good polygon modeling and flow. Now I'm gonna follow this hard edge line because this tab goes straight down, so it's not gonna look like it's on perfect edge, but you don't always have to perfectly follow your reference, especially if you have a good idea of what your plan of action is. What I'm gonna do from here is I'm realizing I need to go this direction and that direction. This is a complicated scenario. A simple complicated scenario, if that doesn't sound stupid. So this is what modeling is all about, is solving these problems, and it's really fun. So let's go ahead and extrude, and I already have a solution to this problem, and I'll show you what it is. I'll pull this straight down, about right here where that curve, this curve right here starts. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to vertex mode. Oop. Oop. Just grab that vertex. Let's pull that over to here. I know that seems weird. It'll all make sense in a second. So we're just going to continue down right now. I'm going to hide this camera. I can't select it. Okay, well, I'll deal with it. Let's go and pull that down. And then, again, we're going to rotate this around. Let's go and, this is kind of weird, but this is one way to handle this situation. I'm going to pull that in real sharp. And then go ahead and go into vertex mode. And go and just reshape this one, pull this one down here. Bear with me, you'll see the geometry when I'm done. You'll see how it works, and there's lots of different ways to solve the same problems. This is not the only way. Don't feel like this is the only way. As you see here, I don't have enough resolution to make this curve, so let's go ahead and access our insert edge loop tool. Go and add some more geometry. Switch back to your point mode. Let's pull this down. There we go. Alright, so this is looking good. Now we need to come back to this area. Let's go ahead and switch back to edge mode. Grab this edge and let's extrude. And I'm going to straighten this out. Even though it's going to look kind of awkward, it's just good to go ahead and do. Pull this down. So you see I pulled this out of a side. It's just kind of one way to solve this problem, not the only way. Now of course, you want to make sure this is straight because this is flat. So, That looks pretty good. It's a good start. And I know it looks rough, but once we extrude it, you'll start to see how this works. Now to mirror this needs these points right here need to be exactly on the X line. As of now, I know for a fact that they're not flush. So I can go ahead and do that by pulling this in. Now what I'm going to show you makes that kind of pointless. That's a good way to average them, but if you were to come in here real close, you'd see I'm real close. But no cigar, I'm not right on the edge. So there's something you can do about that. When you have these selected, you can come up here to Window, General Editors, and Component Editor. These are components, edges, polys, and faces, or you know what I'm trying to say. All those are components of the mesh. So your component editor is going to help you edit those. So what you can do is come in here and these polygons, and you've got them all selected right here. And we need them to be zeroed out on the X. So let's go ahead and put in a 0 here. Now, these are my selected ones, so you know if I select a different one, you'll see that update right here. And now I see my vertex is at 0 on the X. All these are at 0 on the X. If I were to zoom in, you'll see I am at 0 on the X. Cool. I can't zoom out. Okay. Now we are ready to mirror. So let's go ahead and select our object. And if you guys want to see it, this is what we got. This is what we built. Let me turn this off. I know these edges look really hard, but whenever I smooth it, it'll look a lot better. I'm gonna go ahead and flatten this out a little bit. See, I'm only moving these in the Z direction. I am not moving them in the X, so they're still on the 0 of X. Select this as an object, and let's say mesh, mirror geometry. Let's click the little options box. Oh, by the way, double clicking an object, or double clicking one of these tools, whoops, to bring up your settings is the same as clicking this little box right here. So let's go ahead and say mesh, mirror geometry, little box. And now look at this. So we are over here, and we want our other half over here. Now if you look down here, your little widget, you'll see that whichever letter, you know, like this is the X direction right here. Whichever one has the letter is the positive. So this direction is the positive X. This is the negative X. And same, this is the positive Z. This is the negative Z. And I'm reading that from down here. Just like up is positive Y, down is negative Y. And we need to mirror this across the X, so we need to go to negative X, because if you look at it, we're going in that direction, negative X. And it's already set to negative X, which is good. We want to merge with the original, and we want to merge vertices. Let's go ahead and click apply. Now this is one object. As you can see, I can select these faces all together. This is one object. So now what we can do is select this in object mode, go ahead and extrude. And now let's smooth it and see what we got. Looks pretty good. It's pretty doughy. We can fix that. There's a couple things we can change actually. Let's go ahead and unsmooth it. Come back here and let's go ahead and do some little tweaking. Let's go ahead and pull this up in a little bit more. Let's see. Oh, and this was an issue with the reference image. See, I followed the reference image too closely and it got off from the reference image, so what I need to do is to grab these and scale them out. Oh. There we go. And then we'll probably need to change our points here. There we go, that should look better. That looks much better. That looks a lot more like a can. So your reference image can really throw you off. Looks like we're getting a little bit of weirdness up here. Maybe it shouldn't be. I shouldn't have altered those points. Let's go ahead and push that back up just a little. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So let's start adding edge loops. If you remember, this looks really large, but this is actually the right size for the can. If you add edge loops in soft mode, it's going to go and give you that bounding box, which is nice because you can see the instant update. Let's go ahead and add them on the inside. Maybe some softer ones up here because this is a softer area. Or maybe even just one. Just have one edge loop and that would give you just, you know, a kind of softer edge. This is looking a lot better. This is looking good. Now, let's see, I need to make a little dip in here. So what we're going to do is we need more geometry. So I'm going to add some edge loops. Let's see, like right here. Here, let's say here. Now if we unsmooth that, we'll see we have some more geometry. I can grab these and I can scale them up. This is not affecting the geometry, even though it might look as though it might. Everything's fine. And I'm going to extrude inwards and pull down. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah, that's looking good. Let's go ahead and add some little tab-esque stuff. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. It's looking really good. Okay, so let's, that might be a bit sharp up there. So this will be a good thing you learn how to do. You can get rid of edge loops. Just select it and delete. Let's see how that looks. Oh man. You know what it didn't do though is delete my vertices. So that didn't work. So you know what you could do about that is just hit delete and then switch to vertices. Come into this view and oh man, select these. This is gonna be annoying. Here we go. We can just from the top view deselect everything on the inside. You'll have to start using these techniques. It's very common to switch between views to get your selection precise. Go ahead and hit delete. There we go. That all looks fine. It's a softer transition. That all looks better. Okay, now let's unhide. So if you remember, Control Shift H. But first I'm going to pull this way up. Control Shift H. Oh, not high enough. Let's pull it up a little bit more. There we go. Let's go ahead and size this up a little bit. It looks like maybe. Other than that, that looks like it is looking good. We are going to do the rest of this with a texture map, hopefully. I might be wrong, depending on the scenario, if it ends up working out. But right now this model is done, and we are good to go. In this tutorial, you learned how to model with NURBS, polygons, curves. You learned more than you think you did. That's a good bit right there. Especially because the way I modeled this or this tab, I haven't done that. Like, I didn't do that for my first like year and a half, like polygon modeling, like flat polys. That's a proficient way in the right scenario. Anyways, in the next tutorial we'll lay out, first we'll convert this can to polys, and then we'll lay out the UVs and then attach a texture map. Start messing with materials, get a material up here, hopefully get a bump map on some of this. But other than that, we're looking good. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.